So I'm finally making this guide for logs at 1:33 in the morning. So let's go ahead and get this over with. Not gonna rush through it, but I'm trying to get it done as fast as I can. Okay, so we're gonna be looking at heroic Nithendra, specifically all phases, and you can shuffle through the phases, and I'll show you that later. This is log analysis for DPS specifically. I'll do healers and tanks at some other point. So we're gonna look at Panty's damage. If you look at the summary here, you can see that it shows all player stats, total damage done all over the whole entire fight, damage taken, healing received, healing done, all that. It shows your talents, your artifact, and the total points in your artifact weapon, your gear as well, and some pieces show blue and green, but if you just hover over them, it actually shows the real piece of the gear. It shows gems, relics, enchants, item level, and then these are the charts that show your total damage done by ability, your damage taken by ability, healing done, and deaths. So we're going to look a little bit more deeper into damage done. If you notice here, a big graph will pop up with a legend that shows different ability names. Here you can see that the damage reaches up to about 800k, over 800k spiked up here with all this damage that's stacked on top of each other. So this is all at one point in time where Panty is doing this much damage. And then this of course is in Lush range, so that makes a lot of sense, and maybe Trinkets proc at this point in time too. You can also sort by all abilities specifically, so if we want to just look at Rupture, we can click there, select Rupture, and see how much damage Rupture did at certain points. But see here, Rupture did 316,944, which is crazy. If we look a little bit more here, you can see the target that the damage was done to. Nithendra, 100% of the damage, which makes sense because Nithendra is the only thing you can hit. Shows you how many cast, average cast, which is the amount of damage that it does. The amount of ticks it does, the average hit from it, the crit percentage, and then the uptime. Uptime for dot classes, people that have to keep up debuffs on bosses, is super important. Panty has really good uptime. The highest I've ever really seen was 95 to 99, which is pretty huge, and that's playing absolutely perfect with no latency problems or anything like that. Next, we're going to look at damage taken, which just shows you how much damage you've taken over the fight. I'll go more in depth later about how to analyze how to reduce the amount of damage you've taken from avoidable damage. Healing doesn't really matter for a DPS, nor does buffs. Well, buffs can. Like if you pay attention to the buffs, it shows you the uptimes on each specific buff, and then it shows you stuff like that. So we'll look here, the Flash have 100% uptime, Legion's Gaze. If you want to know what any of the procs are specifically, you can click here and it'll show you what this is. Okay, I see Empower Stormlash. Okay, that's neat. So you can hover over the icon and it'll show you what it does specifically, so you don't have to worry about that. And see, this is a trinket. I have to look at this and see what this is. I don't necessarily know what this teach me thing is. Let me click it, let's see. It says, thank you for taking time to educate. Mouse over the icon, read left tooltip buff, double check. Okay, I see. Alright. And then defensive buffs, healing buffs from healers, movement buffs, utility buffs, raid buffs, stances, forms, and seals, which doesn't really matter because we all know stealth is going to be used probably at the beginning. Yep. Probably at the very beginning of the fight. And if you notice, these charts are like spread out. This is the entire length of the fight and how long, like, specific parts in the fight where it's popped up. And you can see that. You can see that if you click a specific one. It's actually a lot. So let's just do Kingsbane. So like Kingsbane, you can see what times the buff was up. Stuff like that. Debuffs just shows, the debuffs that players have, and Kingsbane should not be selected here. So it shows the uptime on the debuffs. And Sated should obviously be the top. Infested should obviously be the second because generally it's mostly unavoidable. Cheated Death is where he almost died to a bug, but Cheated Death saved him. Rot's understandable for counts. It shouldn't be too high because it's also considered because we have a decent number of players, so Rot shouldn't go on the same person that many times unless they're extremely unlucky. Burst of Corruption's the bugs, which honestly shouldn't happen. Deaths, Panty had none, so that's understandable. Interrupts here. There shouldn't be any. Dispels, there shouldn't be any. Resources, this shows your hit points. You can also go to energy, where you see the different amounts of energy, and you see this is a wild graph. and see at one point Venomous Vim, which is 7 energy each time your abilities deal bleed damage to a poison target. This is very important for classes that have to disperse and pool specific resource types. You can see Panty wasted 8, which is relatively low. 8 energy is not all that bad. It could be a lot more, and that just shows how good of a player Panty is. You can also select different things like combo points. See here, Seal Fate. When you critically strike a melee attack during his combo points, you gain an additional combo point per critical strike. He wasted 13 combo points, which is actually, you know, that's pretty high. It shouldn't be that high. Casts, this is just the casted ability. So let's say we want to look at Mutilate. It's going to be casted quite often because it's his generating ability for combo points. You see here. You can analyze this and look at what times you used it and what times before, how many times you used it before you used, you know, like a Garrote, or how many times you used it before you used a Rupture, which actually uses combo points. And see whether or not you're hitting it with 5 or not. So next you'll see up here, you see a bunch of little things up here. We'll pay attention to the one that's right next to his name, well, across from his name. And we'll look at timelines, which shows throughout the fight how many times it was used. So we'll go back to summary for this. Oh, I'm sorry. Damage done. And it'll show, you know, melee did this damage, and this is over the course of the fight. It shows you what times and how long each specific thing lasted. You see here, Kingsbane, the poison dot. You can see Rupture lasted quite a bit throughout the entire fight. And here was the drop-off point where he lost uptime. There was one point in time, it's a very slim point of time, where Panty did not have a Rupture on the target. But for the rest of the fight, I believe it's always up. Nope, there's another chunk. So ideally, that should probably be continuous throughout the entire thing. But I'm not going to nitpick that. That's fine. So, when you get the gist of the timelines, now we'll look at events. This is a second-by-second analysis of what Panty did damage-wise. And easily, like I did before earlier, you could just click all abilities here and select an ability and see on the timeline how much damage it did. The asterisks here signify that it crit. So you can see here, Rupture, and then you can read the ability. Just go on down and look at these different things. Queries doesn't matter, we're not going to worry about that right now. Compare doesn't matter, we're not going to look at that right now either. Problems is avoidable damage. This shows the entire raid's quote-unquote problems. So you see your potion use. Some people used 2, not everyone used potions, and not everyone used 2 potions. Health stones are pretty much, you know, to stay alive. Healing, slow deaths are people that died to things that they had the choice to not die to. See here, like Greenie died very slowly to Burst of Corruption. Avoidable damage. If you want to look at the specifics of it, you can click each of these things. Rot damage, infested breath damage, infested ground damage, Burst of Corruption damage, and these are all avoidable. Infested, it shows the highest stacks, which you shouldn't be getting stacks around these numbers here. 24, 21, and 20 aren't exactly good. That's just people getting hit by the breath. I mean, or just getting hit by people that have rot around them, which sometimes isn't their problem, but sometimes it is, considering that they could stack a little bit. I mean, they could spread a little bit better in order to ignore that. Rankings doesn't matter either, it just shows you, like, your percentage as a player in the bracket for your specific item level. So I really worry about that, and then our guild rank, which is pretty low. With advanced combat logging, you can play replays. For some reason, the replay here is bugged for me. But if it's not for you, you can click enter full screen. It pops up a map of the encounter area. It has a SCADA-like chart here. It says damage done, damage taken by ability, healing done, healing received, that stuff. And then all this stuff up here, if you click, it takes them out of the replay. So since we're analyzing Panty, we'll click Panty's name, and it'll show damage done by Panty Thief here, and it have his box highlighted. Another interesting thing is, since I put a video of the boss up, you can take the video and hit select video here, copy paste the URL, and offset by the specific number of seconds that the fight begins afterwards. And then the video provider apparently always has to be YouTube. Since I have this fight here, this is the one we'll use. So I'll play, I have Panty selected. It'll show Panty's screen here. He popped the potion, his trinket's procking, and it shows the stacks of his trinket, and it shows his rotation down here, how he's doing. Over here it shows the debuffs that he puts on Nithendra, who Nithendra's targeting, and all these motions, all these icons are the players on our raid. So you can see it shows who Rod pops up on. It shows, and then over here it breaks down the damage per second of Panty's abilities. You can see Venom actually pops over Rupture there for a little bit. You can see the people with Rot running out. You can also see once it gets to the second ad phase, which I'm going to skip to. I mean, not the second ad phase, the second phase. You can see where it'll pop up the bugs and people standing in the bugs. Like here, Tetsu gets hit. And then it shows you, using these red lines, who got hit by the bugs. So that's pretty interesting. This works for just about every fight. So it's very useful. I have it, like, I take logs with advanced combat logging, so we always have that. So let's look at a two-phase fight with Il'gynoth. So we'll move back to Analyze. And I just wanted to emphasize this. This is going to be the last point I'm going to give out. If you click all phases up here, Ruined Ground is the add phase. So you can see, because you know Il'gynoth's a two-phase fight, if you want to know how much damage you did during a specific phase, this is how you would do it. You would click all phases up here next to Il'gynoth. You would click whatever phase you want to do. Ruined Ground is the add phase, so Decatur came out first here. But then Heart of Corruption, which is, you know, we burn in the first phase, is the second phase, so you would click that. And you can see how much higher some people's damage is in here compared to out here. You see here, like, Enar was all the way down here at 120k during the add phase, but once the Heart phase opened, he jumped to 444. Other than that, there isn't all that much I can say about DPS analyzation, but when it comes further on, I'll do healers and tanks as well. I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I want to stress how important logs are, and that preferably you need to look at your own logs before next raid night and after the previous one, so you can get an idea of what you need to work on and all these different things. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys during raid tomorrow. Have a good one.